I do. Okay? Again, I don't want this to be a race. Okay? There's no point in trying to rush through this because you're not that good with a knife yet. Okay? So part of the problem that most of you are having is that you're trying to go a lot faster than your capabilities are or your skill level is at. Okay? And that's human nature. Okay? It happens. But I want to take a step back and refocus on how to do this properly. Okay? So with a shallot, I'm looking for a Brunoise cut. A Brunoise cut is basically a julienne that we dice. Okay? So you're going to take your shallot apart. That's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on a piece like that. Okay? And what you're going to do, notice how my knife tip does not leave the board. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes that most of you are making is you're cutting incorrectly. You're lifting that knife up and you're trying to cut. Very rarely will you see my knife leave the board, right? A lot of times what you're seeing is this. Okay? Now if I have a larger piece like that and I need to, then yeah. Okay? But when you're cutting something very small and precise, and this is, again, that over-exaggeration of what happens when your knife blade hits the board when you come down. Okay, so it's like ultra slow motion. Even if you're only right here and you're cutting, the blade has a tendency, your hand has a tendency to come down, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it's going to determine which side. Okay? You don't even notice it happen. Okay? But it does happen, I promise you. Okay? Looking at the dices from yesterday for the mirepoix garnish for the rice pilaf, what were my comments to most of you?
They're too big.
They're too big, right? And what else? They're inconsistent, right? Okay? That some that were big, some that were small, some that were right, some that were not even close, right? But it's because you're rushing and you're not paying attention to what you're doing. How many of you say you'd really, really like to cook? So, quite a few. So, put your best effort into what you're doing. If you give me 6 different components that are all mediocre, then the end result is going to be one mediocre mess, right? And you try to get fancy and make a little garnish for it, right? Not a bad idea, but just an inappropriate amount of it, you know, and inconsistent. So again, we know the passion's there, we know the interest is there, we know the desire to do well is there, but what are we missing? The ability to do it well, right? And that's why we're here. I promise you, I absolutely promise you, that if you work at cutting the way that we're trying to teach you, you will improve. Your cuts, your plates, your food, everything will be that much better. I promise. I can make that promise because it's happened with me. I've learned how to do it, you know, and my food has gotten better, you know. My wife and my daughters sit at the kitchen counter and watch me cut. When we have company come over for dinner, they are fascinated by watching me cut vegetables. And I'm like, don't you guys have other stuff to talk about? And they're like, it's a thing of beauty to watch somebody who's, you know, and I love cooking. I do. Especially, you know, It's my career, it's my job, and I love what I do for a living. But to me, when I get to cook for my family, my friends, that's when it's really a lot of fun, right? And we've got 3,700 square foot house. We have company come over and everybody's in 35 square feet. They're all in the kitchen, crowded around. Who else does that happen to? You got people, you got an entire house and everybody's just where? And everybody's in the kitchen. Why? Because it's fun, it's cool, that's where the food is, right? So, do it well. You know what I mean? But to do it well, you've got to retrain your hands. You've got to do it differently than you've been doing it. And you've really got to work at it. It's not just going to happen, right? Look at the size of the cut that I made. It's a julienne shallot, right?
Chef.
It's all pretty consistent. Is each one exactly, if we were to take some kind of measuring device, are they all going to be exactly precisely the same? No.
No.
Absolutely not. I'm good. I'm not that good. Okay? I'm not a laser guided chef. Yeah. I'm working on it. Okay? This isn't a race. This isn't, let's see how many we can get done. Okay? This is boring, monotonous, and repetitive. And that's how you learn. Okay? Again, I'll go back to a martial arts analogy. Don't fear the person who can kick 10,000 different ways. Fear the person who just can kick you once, who has practiced it 10,000 times, because it's going to be that much more effective. You can know 10,000 different moves and techniques, and if you only practice them once, you're not going to be a master of it. But you have one technique that you practiced over and over and over, you become much more proficient and much, much more. What's the word I'm looking for? Dangerous. You know what I mean? As a cook, you want to become much more dangerous, not by your unintentional attempts at assassination with your food, okay, because you're mishandling it, okay? But you want to become dangerous. You want to become that threat to somebody. When you walk into their kitchen at a new restaurant or a new job, you become a threat because you do it better. You do it faster. You do it more consistently. Okay? And then you become the one to beat. You become the one that everybody looks at and goes, wow, I better step up my game. You know what I mean? And that's what we have to do. We have to do that for each other. Okay? And that's why we're here. That's why we're working on this kind of stuff yet again. Right? It's not a punishment. It's a reset. Because if you can't cut a simple bias cut or an accurate small dice, then we've got some serious concerns, right? Okay, now the Brunoise. See how I peeled apart the shallot? Okay, that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to take more than 2-3 pieces at a time and put them together. Okay? Why? Because that's more manageable for you. Okay? Don't try to do the entire shallot. Okay? Because that's one of the reasons that your onions weren't consistent, right? Because you julienne them all, but then you pile them all together and they're going all over the place, right? Again, we're not in a race. And how much mirepoix do you really have to cut for 1 cup of, we're overreacting. We're just, and again, we're going back into that, we're just reacting. Everybody ran in there, every team ran into the cooler and grabbed an onion. And nobody said, whoa, I don't need a whole onion for this, do I? Next thing you know, I've got 18 half onions, right? Communication, critical, okay? So, take your pieces of shallot, take your julienne. Can you see that? That is a brunoise. That's what we're looking for. And we're going to finish all of these. Okay? And we're going to take our time. And if we finish all of those, then we're going to get some garlic. And we're going to brunoise that. Okay? Advanced folks, I need hash browns. I need breakfast potatoes, onions, and potatoes for breakfast for 20 for Tuesday. Okay? So, we have no Idaho stuff?
More russets.
No russets? No?
I'm gonna double check.
Okay. All right, so once again,
Go Shefty.
all I want you to do, I want you to take that apart. Okay? Now, if we get down to a piece that we can't cut accurately and consistently, put it off to the side. We're not going to throw it away. We're still going to use it. Okay? But I don't want that, you know, that's a piece that'll go over there. Okay? Because I'm not going to get all accurate, consistent pieces from there, right? That's a piece. I'm going to cut it down so I can work with it more consistently and more evenly and more accurately. Okay? But I don't want the majority of what's going in that, you know, I don't want to say reject bin, but in that other bowl to be almost all that. Okay? It's not a race. You don't win any, you don't get any extra points for doing it faster. Okay? Take your time and do it consistently and do it accurately. That's what I'm looking for. Okay? I don't want you to try to cut this like this. That's not how you should be doing this. Okay? I did pretty good. I did good. Can you do that as well? Maybe not. Maybe you'll get a couple right, and that's good, but you got to do it consistently. Stack them. Okay? There's your brunoise. That's what it should look like. Okay? Everybody see that? Okay? Guess what? That's it. That's all you have to do. With that. Who remembers what a blanc means? What does it mean, Tyler?
No
White.
color.
No color. What about a brown?
Brown.
Brown. Okay? So, here's where you learn to hate me even more. Because you're going to tourne carrots. Yes. This is going to be your final exam for this class. You're going to tourne carrots and potatoes, and you're going to make a rissolet potato, and you're going to make a glaçage of carrots. Glaçage of blanc, glaçage of blanc. We have not demoed them yet. You have not seen them yet. You will. What? Glaçage? Glaçage, accent de vous. Little